You know what is really, really fun? It's when the show starts like that with a rug. You know, I did a whole intro for you guys. You didn't hear a single thing? That's insane. Let me just rewind it back. Hello, welcome. It's the Ronin Radio. You know what we're doing? We're here every single week. If you haven't already got to know, your plug into this Ronin ecosystem is right here with us every single week. We're going to stay on topics today with what's happening in Ronin, but of course, we have the man himself, G-Host, in the building with us today. So it's going to be a fun one. We've seen a lot of questions from our community in Discord servers, on social media too. We'll be addressing questions. If you do have any, put them in the chat. We can't guarantee it, but we will be seeing it. But if you are here right now, make sure you repost in the stream and subscribing to the YouTube channel. Soon hitting 1,000 subscribers, and we'll be giving out some Ronky NFTs when we do that. But yeah, I don't think there's any need to delay any further. Let's just bring my people through. I brought Theban up, and he was just like sitting there. I had a full convo with you, bro. I was like, why is this guy ignoring me? But anyway, here he is. Hello.
Well, I couldn't hear you. I thought I was going deaf, So yeah, there's no Ronin Radio without its rug charm. So here we are.
Yeah. I definitely didn't check my hair before we went live today, bro. Look at this. Look at this trim today. Shit.
I know it's rough out here, but I didn't know. We couldn't afford
Yo, this is my hair should always show you guys the representation of the market. Like, do you remember deep bear market? Like deep bear market?
Yeah.
You remember what my hair looked like then?
No.
Come on, bro. Don't make me dig up the archives.
I don't recall.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, that was deep bear market vibes. Right now, it's a little. We don't know what's going on, but G-Host is here. The chat is like, where's G-Host? A lot of questions to come in. Every month, we're lucky enough to get G-Host on this show, and they're always good shows. We have great conversation. So without further ado, let's bring G-Host up here and get this thing on the road, bro. G-Host, welcome, man. Good to see you.
What up? Yo, this looks like a fake background, right? But it's actually real as fuck.
Bro, touch the wall. Touch the wall. Show me it's real.
Oh, it's not a wallpaper.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
It's real, right?
Yeah.
Where you at?
Hey.
Tell us.
See, that's some alpha. Where in the world is Jiho right now? Like, we're in, new location, new beginnings. That's kind of the vibe. I drop alpha a little bit on my Instagram, by the way. So I think we're something is kind of cooking in terms of like a new location, new beginnings. But
they got the alpha in the Woku Weekly last week as well, in the Woku Discord.
Because I was in the something new with my location. I think it's a little more conducive, a little closer to the community, some of the community members as well. So
absolutely. We don't want to unpack that. We let the world figure that out in time.
That's basically right. There's new beginnings. There's a new kind of. I'm somewhere else, right? Like I'm somewhere else. Where the fuck am I? I'm not where I usually am. So those are like that's basically all.
That's the
vibe. Someone's screenshotting it and putting it in like AI and finding out exactly where you are.
Find this person. Yeah.
Just speaking probably somewhere out there.
The backdrop for real. But glad to have you here. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and an important time because we get to address a lot of the things. The last time you were here was the previous month. We were going through those rough little periods. I think we're still in that period, being candid, and so things have changed since then. We've seen great momentum with Dynamite Labs. I really am a fan of what they've been doing. Like it's quite crazy actually that they don't have revenue models existing before they become Web3 games. So that's been good to see. I want to know, G-Host, what are you excited about on Ronin right now?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it has been important, right, to get another win, a victory, a bit under our belt with Angry Dynamites, right, to show that the power of the Ronin network is still unrivaled when it comes to, right, taking a game that is good and has some Web3 elements and then taking it to the next level, right? Like we've seen some of the data where this game was great but kind of in obscurity. And then it came to Ronin, and now, right, it's like absolutely really taking over this timeline. So it really shows, right, the power that's still within this community. I think a lot of the stuff that I've been thinking about, or that we're excited about within Ronin right now, is, all right, what can we do to engage the next generation of Ronin users, right? Where are they coming from, right? Are they coming from other chains? Are they coming from the rest of the crypto space, right? Maybe people that have owned crypto for a long time but have never actually transacted on chain. And where is this next generation of users coming from, and how do we basically systematically onboard them? So there is a couple of problems that we're solving. One is like, how do you build like a functioning kind of Web3 economy? And we're starting to see answers emerge. Things like Cambria, right? This risk to earn model where you basically have like a happy symbiosis between like the whales and the people that are spending a ton. And then also you have like more of the gamers. And then of course you have like the creators and those that are referring people into the network. And so, I also think that, right, with the Axiom MMO, that's also an opportunity to test out, right, like what's working in terms of like Web3 gaming economic models, right, kind of transmuting or sending also these learnings on game economy to other games on Ronin, right? Fishing Frenzy and Angry Dynamites is contributing, right, to the knowledge, right? We have a lot of eyeballs on Ronin, but there's how do we turn like some of those eyeballs into revenue that can also be used to basically further the protocol, further the game? We now have like, ads, wow, like people actually are interested in ads, right? And that's also a way to generate some revenue from people, like from more like spenders. Like, like you don't want to watch the ad, you can also just, right, participate in this battle pass. There's been talks, right, whisperings around some sort of a Ronin points or reputation system, something like a Ronin score. We saw that we just like shipped the update to the Axie score in conjunction with the town builders. So one of the things that we're thinking about is like, okay, how do we revamp like the Ronin token to be more formidable? And one of the things that we're thinking about is, can we create something like proof of distribution, right? Where basically we have a programmatic way to support builders that are onboarding new users to the Ronin ecosystem based on, some concrete metrics like, the number of RON that they're causing to be used as gas, the amount of inflows that they're driving into the Ronin treasury. Right, so some sort of a reputation system for both users and builders that is able to help us coordinate behavior within the network. And right, it's also a way to also help maybe change up the tokenomics a little bit. Right now, like all the staking rewards are just going to the validators and the stakers, right? And then basically most of the community rewards are going to the liquidity providers and the Katana pools, right? But is that really, right, the best distribution of tokens imaginable, right? Wouldn't it be easier to imagine some sort of a system where people are being also rewarded based on, right, how many users they're onboarding, what they're doing within the ecosystem, right? So that meta game of, right, like building with them on Ronin and then also contributing to Ronin, spending, playing, or referring, right? These are all things that are also very important to the network, not just validating the blocks and providing liquidity, right? Right now, we're basically only incentivizing people to validate blocks and provide liquidity at the protocol level. Like, is that actually, right, like what Ronin is best for? That doesn't sound like what you should be necessarily paying all your money for on a chain that's basically centered on games and gamified applications. And so that's a big thing that we've been thinking about. Of course, on the MMO front, on the Axie front, it's like, how do we just like get as many shipments for the MMO as possible? Like how many, how do we basically just like ship something internally, test it out, get feedback, and then, get it as quickly as possible reasonably possible into something that's able to start also attracting new users to Ronin. Because I think like a big question that we asked is like, okay, like we want to attract a really quality audience to Ronin, right? To add to our current player base. For that you usually need some sort of a flagship killer app. We're also thinking about like how to have like more like gacha mechanics on Ronin, right? So you kind of saw that we were like experimenting with the fortune spin, Jin's fortune spin.
Like
So
a
something
CS:GO
like that,
crate.
right? Because you also see this. I think the trend is blind boxes, pack openings, things like that in the physical collectible space. How can we be at the epicenter of bringing that type of surprise and delight related to scarcity into the digital realm, right? Because what is the market? What is the game that we're playing? We're operating in the digital collectibles business and the games business, and basically where these things interact or overlap.
Yeah.
So yeah, more gacha, using the MMO as a catalyst to onboard, and then like some sort of like what is the Ronin metagame, or is there a reputation system? Is there a way to better show off all the games, all the top experiences within the ecosystem? I think I strongly believe that there is a Ronin routine that is like the most fun routine that I could be doing that I don't even know of, right? If that makes sense, right? Like, oh, play Fishing Frenzy for a little bit, right? And do this. Play Angry Dynamites for a bit and do this, right? Play, maybe Axie Origins and do this. What is like basic claim your AXS and your RON staking rewards, right? Like what are all the things that we want to be encouraging people to do on a daily basis? How do we reward them with something like that's like basically like points or reputation? We're seeing what are some of the models to look at is like you have Kaido, you have Yaps, you have the you have the virtuals Virgin points, right? So you basically have like the applications that are doing well. They also have these like smart incentive systems that are basically incentivizing different things. Kaido is interesting because you have like the integration of the Yap score, and then you also have like whether you're buying and holding the launchpad tokens, right? So it's very easy to imagine, right, this sort of Virgin points for gamers, right? So something that basically integrates different parts of the funnel and is rewarding stuff programmatically, not just engagement and spend, but also potentially building stuff on the network. So that's that's behind a lot of the thought process. Also, like we spent a lot of time partnering with teams that are smaller than us. Hey, come build on Ronin. You can get your first 1,000 users, 2,000 users. We stopped flexing our muscle of partnering with teams that are bigger than us. But that's actually what we did a lot in the early days, right? We partnered with Samsung, Kakao, Ubisoft, HTC, and then that's not to mention a lot of the Web3 protocols that we partnered with in the early days. Yeah. So we want to go back to doing more of that, where it's like you're bringing in like working with people that are larger than us to also get more like brand equity and awareness from that.
I think the last one was Google, right?
Yeah, Google, and that was important too, right? For kind of like reestablishing, kind of, ourselves and our security of Ronin right after what happened. So we see the power of those. I think we can deprioritize that as we were more focused on just like onboarding a ton of games. But so we're seeing some shift in strategy there as well.
Yeah, I think you are right as when you talk about the sentiment around, it seems everybody is kind of floating around waiting for some kind of killer application, right, to engage, but having a better distribution process to engage with as users can like disrupt that floating element, which causes a stagnation feel sentiment wise, but also in metrics wise too. So having that reward layers like put in place definitely could disrupt the current or the status quo right now. But we spoke with Kagi on Tuesday, and we were talking about this and like, what is the application, or what kind of applications do we think would be, valuable and are necessary in some ways to come to Ronin? And also spoke with Hantal last night on keeping it a buck, and we had some really like overlapping conversations where we spoke about really the game that is at hand in this industry a lot of the time is, what's your profit percentage, right? Like, are you able to make bread, right? Bottom line, really. And a lot of these chains that, I would go into and explore and kind of coin as maybe not as quality as what I've experienced on Ronin. The thing that they do have is like the depth of decentralized finance applications and like processes to go through where they really feel like that game is at hand. And, in reflection now, when I look at Ronin, sometimes I do, really think as like, wow, there is a lot of infrastructure that is solid, the long-term game, which is very valuable and needs to exist. But in terms of those applications where you do get like these TVL spikes because people are like, whoa, there's an opportunity right here. We haven't really seen since Open Ronin. And a lot of people are asking that question, like, when more DeFi? I'm interested to know kind of your position on it. Someone that's much more, I would imagine, much more experienced in decentralized finance than someone like myself and maybe other users of Ronin. Like, what are you thinking about when it comes to Ronin, especially with that gamification aspect around it? Like, is there really an avenue for gamification in actual DeFi core applications in this space?
I think generally, yes, if we can we need DeFi to work in a way that's going to play to our strengths. Otherwise, we're just fighting against other chains. And there are a lot of chains that specialize in DeFi, right? That had like proof of liquidity, for example, Barra, right? That totally failed and crashed, right? We also had Barra and Blast and things like that. So I do think that, right, like, you need to bring something that's unique. For us, is the fact that we actually have real people. So how do we basically use the fact that we have real people on our chain to, have a unique take on DeFi, and then also the fact that, right, we're a gaming centric chain. So what are like the unique opportunities that are kind of opened up by that? And so it's a tricky thing, right? I mean, we have Compound, right? It's just like, it's a process because all these DeFi apps are too decentralized or are very decentralized, which is kind of good, I guess, for their security, but it's also bad in terms of getting them, right, to do anything quickly, right? To me, right, like, I mean, there's an opportunity, I would say, for community members to just deploy DeFi protocols on Ronin and release a token. Usually the thing that drives the TVL for these DeFi protocols is for them to release their own token. Right, we had like 2 billion in TVL, right, for Katana, because, right, that was the way that we basically, right, attracted liquidity for the Ron token as well, right? But there was already a release of a token. So yeah, I would say, right, like, I think there's a lot of demand for example, also like Liquid Ron, the biggest problem with Liquid Ron, in my opinion, is that it doesn't have a token. If you basically were farming the Liquid Ron token by depositing into Liquid Ron, then, right, almost everyone would do it. But so that's the tricky thing, right? Is like, you basically need a protocol that would have demand. You also, it's easier to do it like pre TG as well. And right now, like, Compound comes over, but they already released the Compound token. Therefore, we have to use the Ron token as incentives, right? So it's a little bit trickier. So I do think that there's like blue ocean for people to just YOLO deploy DeFi protocols and do some farming. Obviously, the tricky thing is that's really risky, and someone could. I'm gonna deploy Aave, right? An Aave fork on Ronin, right? Deposit, earn yield. It would be a little bit tricky because, that could also be exploited.
Yeah, way out of my league anyway. But I don't know what you think, Steve.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think that's something like a reputation layer. If you're basically earning points or something like that for, right, checking out and being encouraged to check out and maximize your use of DeFi across the ecosystem, I think that'll make sense. I think also, like, once the treasury is buying back, stuff as well, right? Like, the Katana is generating a lot of fees for the Ronin Treasury, and I do think that, right, like, people will come to see the fact that, right, Ronin has protocol owned liquidity via Katana. They'll start to see that as an advantage once the buybacks start. Right now, like, people are kind of like, oh, if it's the potential for buybacks is like zero versus the actuality of buybacks happening being one. Right?
Yeah. It gets my mind thinking, bro. I don't want to tangent too heavily here, but I was just thinking about all these things that we could do for like the incentive drivers through this reputation layer and then beyond just the reputation layer. Imagine like a like an ecosystem wide game that's being played, right? Your wallet represents yourself as a character, or the wallet is a character in itself. You can customize the character freely as an NFT through like just straight cosmetic purchasing, but the actual points that you gain through the reputation layer like charge its stats in certain ways, and then there is actually an application in which wallet versus wallet can take place, and like that game type of gamification of this reputation layer, that you're actually like supercharging some fantasy character of yourself on the Ronin network, and you can digitally represent yourself on that. I don't know, I'll go talk to a wall about it later on tonight, but yeah, I think as this does drive and attract like developers as well to Ronin, if that is inclusive in that reputation layer, like if there's extra added bonuses for those niche behaviors or activities, that for someone like myself wouldn't be attainable, but there is a large point share for leaning into the talents of the humans that are here on Ronin. So I think I do have a lot of faith in the retuning of distribution on Ronin into that reputation layer. I do have a lot of faith for that, because we've seen it play out and in across different ecosystems, and really it does feel like we need something in Ronin, and I think that's an activity that can start to catalyze other things.
The way that I see it, right, is like the crowded market is like pre-TGE point systems, and then the blue ocean, the opportunity is around like post-TGE points and reputation systems as well. And I'm looking at chat. What is the fee model of Katana? Like, I mean, so basically Katana, all the fees that are generated by Katana, right, 0.05% of that goes into the Ronin treasury. 0.25% of that is shared with the liquidity holders. That's basically, right, like the model as pioneered by Uniswap, right? Like Katana is a Uniswap fork. The fee switch is 0.05%. Uniswap has never turned on their fee switch. However, it's never even been turned on. So to me, right, like when it comes to using a DEX to generate revenue for buybacks, I actually believe that Katana is ahead of the curve, or ahead of the status quo. You do have like Jupiter, I guess, right, which is pushing the envelope as well. So I think they've done like a relatively good job. But those are kind of like the ends of the spectrum. So.
Yeah, that was one of the big points in our last conversation with Kagi, though, was about the treasury aspect. The stance that Axie took in its early days, and now, of course, being replicated with Ronin. Look at
I mean, I think like that's an advantage for us, that we've always had those treasuries in accepting assets. And the treasury model is a little bit annoying because the funds are dormant, but the benefit is that you basically are often dormant. But the good thing about that is that you don't use the funds to buy the top, right? So imagine if we had an automated system for buying back AXS or buying back RON. Most of the revenue comes when the token price is high. Therefore, most of the buying would have also happened when the token price is high. Now that the token price is low, is like you're happy, right, that we have funds in the treasury now, rather than like it being all spent, at the top. And now, the price would have gone the same way, in any sense, right? So.
Yeah, I have a few questions from the community, but before I do that, Demon, I'll pass it over to you, bro, if you have anything
Yeah.
for Jiho. So
It's it's always an interesting topic talking about DeFi and things like that. But me, I'm a gamer, man. Like I love playing games. I came here for Axie. I came here to play Axie and like all the economic stuff around that. Um, and you're talking about identity, right? Like I
Mm,
think we are a gaming chain at the end of the
mm,
day, right? And I think as much as we would like to talk about DeFi because we need more TVL and so on. Yesterday was it yesterday? No, the day before yesterday we were talking with Kagi. We were talking like, man, it would be awesome for gamers to be able to like, at the end of the day, we're degens, right? Like in this space, to have some kind of a trading platform, right? Like a perps trading platform, like something like that. If that was ever if that is even in the cards or a possibility, right? I've always felt like that's a natural transition for most gamers in this space as well, and that would probably bring in a lot of capital if there was like some kind of a token event or something happening from like volume creation, and then and what are they gonna do when they make some money or so on, right? Like they're gonna look at what else is in the chain and where we can spend it. What are your thoughts on that? You think that would ever be a possibility?
wait, so reframe the question again.
So like for Ronin, right? We're talking about um DeFi things.
Mm.
You think a perps platform, right?
Um,
Perps trading platform, right? That has all different kinds of tokens and so on and things like that. You think that would be something that Ronin would be interested in partnering up with somebody to launch, like very similar to Hyperliquid?
mm. Yeah, it's tricky. Should we just get Ron on Hyperliquid, or should we, someone launch a Hyperliquid on Ronin or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I think the other way is like launching a Hyperliquid on Ronin would maybe do more, right? Because having Ron on Hyperliquid, like there's a lot of tokens that sit on Hyperliquid and no one trades them, right?
Mm.
Like they just don't, like they have like no volume whatsoever. But I think the other way around and having an event where like trading volume can generate you points very similar to what Hyperliquid did, and like launching a coin off of that could be pretty big because we do have a lot of gamers, and gamers just technically gamers are traders. They just don't know it yet, right? Like most of them just play games because that's what they know. But if they were ever exposed to it, like in a way that is like right in front of them, I think once they pick it up, they'll find the interest because there's a lot of similarities between the two.
So I do think that there is like product market fit for, I guess, like perps and crypto. So I do think that there's an opportunity for someone to work on, right, an exchange like Hyperliquid for Ronin. It's a little bit tricky. Like I don't know. Like you could also just put Ronin on Hyperliquid, to be honest, right? Or yeah, it's possible, but I'm not sure if the opportunity is large enough. And I would have to look into the numbers, but it's also right, like 95% of people who trade on Hyperliquid, I believe, like lose money, as well, right? So it could also be, just like memes on Ronin is a good thing, but
Mhm.
is it the next big thing that's going to get us to the next level? I'm not sure.
Yep. Yeah. Your stance as of recent, and obviously since Open Ronin, seems to be very like heavily lent towards things coming from within, right? Within Ronin. And as much as we've seen that now over the last few months, there's been a ton of applications that have been drawn out and spun up by community members. Is that like is that a mission for you to kind of see that happen, for it to for things in Ronin to be born, kind of within the network from its people and then expand? Is it more like, I guess, is it a preference to, going out and seeking already successes or those that are building such things?
We've seen the community build a lot of great stuff since Open Ronin. I also do think that the community wants Sky Mavis to still take a leadership role in terms of like determining the next step or some of the next metas. I think that Sky Mavis, we need to focus on innovation, thinking about things that have never been done before and experimenting them. And I think that the community, right, I think can take the lead now in terms of, hey, like, oh, I think we need this protocol on Ronin. Okay, like just launch it, right? So I do think that Sky Mavis, we need to play to our strengths, which is right innovation and creating new things and trying things that have never been done before. And a lot of the things that Sky Mavis was wasting time on or spending a lot of time on in the past, I think can be right kind of more decentralized.
Yeah. It's actually making me quite passionate about wanting to take a stance of like congregating these people in Ronin, because like why is there such a disconnection, right? Like there is talent, of course, in this ecosystem. We've seen it. There's been a lot, of development happening, but like I don't feel as if they have a public facing figure. We know some of them. Moa, I would reference a bunch. I don't want to miss anybody out, so I won't do that. But like, I think it's after this is probably something that I would need to really lean into and spin up. I think we need to congregate together talent on this network that's actually eager to do something and have a central point of contact so that things are understood. We're not overlapping each other. We're helping each other build those things. If there's let's try and build a fork of Ava, right? How would we do that? People who give a shit about that can congregate together and make that happen, right? But all kind of within the Ronin community of people that exist. So it's actually surprising to me that I don't see that so much, right? And if applications were born of the community and that is like a better approach, or it's just an opportunity right now, why is there not something born of the community that is organizing that? Is a lot of the thoughts that I'm having right now. But chat's going crazy. Shout out to everyone that's here.
The thing about like the community is always going to be slower and you know what I'm saying? Like if you want to go fast, like just do everything yourself, right? And kind of centrally plan stuff. Right? The point, the community driven development is a little bit is more organic. It's more chaotic. It takes a much longer time. It's kind of like that, the Axie governance process, right? It's I think it's going well. It's just methodical, right? It takes a long time to coordinate.
So Hantao in the chat said something. He said they have already been congregated by Ronen and Ronke, right?
It's a fair statement, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like people want what they want, right? Like they're gonna come together to do something that they want, and they try to push Ronke, they try to push Ronin. Like what would you say? Are these things like, for example, as Sky Mavis, things that you just think like, okay, let the community handle that, let's see where that goes? Or do you think it's something that you would want to like partake in yourself or like support if you felt like it really had some kind of momentum? Because we've seen, like, for example, other chains get involved, right? Like
but this kind of bad, right? Because
the recent one was funny.
It's bad because these things are gonna have like violent dips and stuff like that, and then you get blamed, right? So for us, right, I mean, I think it was I think we've played it right where we're supporting, right? Like we're sometimes mentioning them and stuff like that. We're not like hostile towards them. And we're giving them words of encouragement, but what else could we do, right? Like obviously people will want us to buy the top last and become their exit liquidity. But I think the main thing that we want to focus on, right, is like innovation and things that are going to bring in a new generation. Because the current generation is great and you guys are stalwart, but it's not enough to get us to the next level, right? Like literally the current generation, we can optimize it, and optimizing it, I think will be great. But we also need to figure out, right, a way to basically onboard a new generation of users. And I think that's the key, right? How do we basically get in a new generation of users, of high quality users with bankroll that are going to be spending for fun, spending in these like risk to earn type of loops, and how does that benefit, right, the entire ecosystem? I think that's the main question.
So what you said about like those projects is more so like it's coming from experience, right? Like having seen this happen over
Yeah, I
and
mean,
over
so like
again.
this is what happened. You know, like let me tell you the story of Axie, right? We built
Yeah.
we built a really passionate community. I was one of the early community members. We focused on building a lot of like really serious stuff. In kind of relative obscurity for a few years. We were known as the best community in crypto gaming. We were known as the largest community in crypto gaming, even when we had 200 or 300 people. But it was always like crypto gaming. Who the fuck cares about that? And then we got some good partnerships, right? Samsung, stuff like that. All when we still had 200 to 500 community members. And then people from 4chan randomly started pumping SLP because they saw that we had a real product, we had a good community, and we had partnerships with Samsung, right? So I still see us it's kind of like in that setup where it's like we have the strongest community, we have the largest community in Web3 gaming, but Web3 gaming, who the fuck cares about that again? And right, I think we just need some killer products or something, right? Just like then it was classic with you can start a guild, you can become a scholar, right? This is a way for you to get involved. You can collect these Axies, whatever. We need some sort of a loop like that to get new whales involved, and also like partnerships, right? To kind of show that social proof that we're working with people that are bigger than us, right? So I think that's like the key to reigniting the spark. The good thing is, right, it's like compared to the last time we were in this situation, it's like we're in a much better position, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We need better products and more devs. I agree with that sentiment. The more devs thing I think is very solvable with a reputation there and like a leaning into. I wouldn't mind, right? Like,
so yeah, that's
in
also
this ecosystem,
another point that I want to make is like a builder reputation layer naturally gives support from the protocol level to projects that are actually delivering for the protocol, rather than it being up to Sky Mavis to like basically being what can we do? We can help them market or whatever, but and we can give grants, but you want something that's programmatic.
Maybe it could be, well, I mean, like there could be a dev category, right, within the reputation layer. And then if their application or their protocol has a certain amount of transaction volume, like that contributes towards some layers of points. So actually the incentive driver is to bring people through to a product or application that is in demand and is also like having some kind of plugin so that it contributes towards Ronin treasury. I think like builders that should come here, the trade-off should be that their application actually plugs into the treasury.
That would be the idea,
like
right? Is that you cannot progress your you cannot like a key to progressing your builder rep would be contributing to the treasury, generating gas fees, right? Basically generating value accrual for the token.
Yeah. So I guess on the topic of killer apps and things like that, when it comes to games, you said something earlier about like there could be some way where you wake up and then you have like this list of things
like
that
a
you're
routine,
gonna do, right? Like a routine of all the games that you're gonna go into and play and so on. And it really had me thinking because as a gamer throughout history, like and the people that I've known and even casual gamers, right? It's actually quite rare for gamers to play a lot of different games, right? Most of them tend to stick to like one, maybe two games, and then they will like play them through phases, right? A couple of weeks, a couple of months, whatever it is. Maybe they get tired and they'll move on to the next hot thing and so on. So what are your thoughts on that with like our current games? Because from my experience, from like the games that we played in Web3 so far, it's like they don't really have a lot of content, and also I can finish them in like an hour, less than that maybe. Like I feel like I don't get enough out of it. And also there isn't like a game where I can completely dedicate myself to as a gamer as well, which I feel like most of the gamers that we've known throughout time, like over the last 15, 20 years, they look for those things where they can dedicate themselves to.
They're subject to cultism, gamers, really and truly. Like
I think Axie was, to be fair, like the last and only true game where you could have like dedicated yourself to. And I feel like since then we just got like these like breadcrumbs of games.
Yeah, I mean that's why Axie is the next Axie. So we're working
As
on
I
that.
said, the MMO.
So the MMO is
How
also meant
far?
to,
Yeah.
right, like is meant to fill that. And I mean, it depends, right? Like I also see not every game needs to cover all parts of the funnel. So that's why I'm also like interested in like what a sick running routine would be, right? Like a little Angry Dynamites, a little Fishing Frenzy. These are very fast. You can finish like playing those very quickly in your routine. Then, right, like maybe some Origins, some Classic, right? Like, I mean, Cambria is like intense when it's up.
Mhm.
You know, I have high hopes for Fableborn as well. Maybe Runiverse when PvP comes, right? We got Lumiterra coming back as well, and then you also have, right, like the larger metagame of Ronin, right? Staking your stuff, right? Like using DeFi. So.
Yeah. A quick one, just to pivot outside of the ecosystem a little bit here. But like, is there anything that you like? I don't know how much time you've had to really look across the industry, but is there anything out there game wise that you've noticed and
Yeah, of course. You know,
are
like
bullish on?
a big part of what I do is I look at like what else is good. You know, in the outside of the Ronin ecosystem, and you know, I'm playing. I've been playing Gigaverse, so you know, I would say that that's probably the best, most interesting game that I've seen. I was
Is that
also,
because of the AI elements?
I mean,
Gigaverse.
maybe like I was actually manually playing it, but I guess, right, I should just find the AI to do it for me.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. We've been
But
talking a
Look
lot
into
about.
that,
I'm
by the
trying to
way,
think,
AI
right? Like, so
games.
outside of Ronin, what am I bullish on is like, yeah, Gigaverse. Yeah, Gigaverse. It was Angry Dynamites, but now they're on. So
Nice.
Have you actually looked at any or thought about what AI gaming is going to look like in the future as a gamer yourself? I'm sure like you've had thoughts about like where things are headed towards.
well, gaming has always been very ahead of the time of the curve when it comes to integration of AI, right? Because like a lot of NPCs and stuff like that are AI anyway.
Well, they're like lines of code, but like where AIs would be more dynamic, right? Like they react in their like to all different scenarios, I guess, would be the difference.
Mm. I mean, I think for AI, I'm interested in AI pets. I'm interested in self-balancing game economies, right? That basically have AI self-balancing them, right? Because that's something that's actually very quantitative and kind of that should be relatively easy for AI to do compared to a human. So
I see that plugin for Cambria for sure. Like NPCs that hold stock and in the of actual NFTs in the game or tokens in the game, and they make decisions based upon fluctuations of the economy. There's a lot of really cool things. You were in the Moku stage last week. We spoke with Hantal last night again, I'll say, but like I'm really bullish on what Grand Arena might look like here on Ronin. If someone was to ask me, what are the things that you think are going to actually cause some inflow and demand to come to Ronin and to interact on Ronin? I think Grand Arena and obviously the MMO are top two by far, like as most exciting right now in my mind. You might know more than is publicly available, but you got really excited in that session last week, and
yeah, that was sick. I mean, I'm a fan of Killer Queen too. Like I was playing that game actually like a couple days after that. Like I'm so good at Killer Queen. Like actually, like that game is like
we should do some live
sweaty.
gameplay on
That game is
Ronin
super
Radio one
sweaty.
time.
Like it's actually mad fun. So that was getting me even more hype for Grand Arena for sure. So yeah, I mean Grand Arena, right? It's like something that it's like you have something like it's kind of like the manager game from back in 2021, right? It's like team optimization, and a little bit more passive. So I think it's gonna I think it has a chance to be a banger.
Royalty distributions too is something that I'm looking at like, oh yeah. Speaking of conversations, I think it's good to like bring you to up to date on things that we have been talking about recently, and we spoke about marketing right over the last few shows, and like some of the community when I gave the open opportunity in our Discord server to provide questions for today. A lot of the questions kind of lent in towards the sentiment of like there are chains out there that even in our position, have like lower TVL, don't have as many applications, XYZ, you name it, right? The metric basis, but they have a sense of in the present feeling bigger. And there a lot of those people were alluding to the fact that, like, what is our approach for marketing right now? I'm quite defensive on that, saying like it makes sense to not, one, be spending a shit ton of money on dead end marketing, because user acquisition is very difficult anyway in the realms of this world. But also the fact that, like, would you want to unload the clip right now for marketing when products are not final, when things are still fluid and moving around? And where would you say your stance is on marketing? Like, if you were to give, I guess, a scale on like 1 to 10 of like how much have we released?
Most chains focus on marketing to basically get people to buy the token rather than to get people to use products, which I think is like valid. And there's a certain element of that that's needed in crypto. And from my perspective, it makes more sense to spend when you have a killer app, or you have something that's already working that you basically know can work, to basically pour oil on the flame, right? Also, crypto is a very authentic space, right? So just like putting stuff into paid ads and stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily translate. I think like some of the stuff that people see as marketing is more like partnerships or something like that, right? Where, to me, I think there's something there where I think it's a valid criticism, where it's like we've been working with too many small teams that are smaller than us, rather than, right, partnering up with teams that are much larger than us, like we used to do in the early days, right? So it's kind of like have to go back to like a startup mentality, proving ourselves again. Then, right, like it's needed to do a bit more partnership marketing with some of the, with some larger names. But I think marketing is interesting because it's anyone can have an opinion on it, if that makes sense, right? And people are really good at spending money, right? Or thinking about ways to spend money that isn't theirs, right? But ultimately, if you spend money, there has to be some good outcome.
Yeah. What would be a dream partnership? Like, talking about partnering up with the big dogs out here, bro. But like, what would be for you, for G-Host, like, aside from what actually is real or whatever, but what would be a dream partnership for you?
President Trump. That's the dream.
Are you guys down for that?
Oh,
Are we down for that? I have no comment.
There's some stuff, right? Like, to me, when I think about this, it's like, who are like some Web 2 brands, creators, or businesses that also have like a high affinity for like gamers and collectors. So, I think about like stuff like Pawn Stars, which is like well known like all across the world.
But they don't really do digital though, Pawn Stars, right? It's more so like the physical.
Yes, but that's the evolution.
That's the idea, right? It's like we're like marrying these worlds, and we spoke to Riot. We were also like speaking to Riot Games in the past, right? But they're like, the person that we were talking to there like got hired into Web3. So that's like some of the problems too. Is like usually these people that are in Web2, interested in Web3, they end up getting hired into Web3, and then it's like their power is kind of fucking gone.
What do you think that says, right? Like, there is like a moat between the visionary, marriage that could happen between those two worlds, and that when they discover that moat, they think, well, I'm gonna go to the industry that leans all the way into it.
Ideally, you have like a good conversion funnel of that. Right now, like these Web2 partnerships, it's more like performative, right? It's like, oh, like we're partnering with X, and then a bunch of people in Web3 just get more bullish on the product, and nobody actually gets onboarded from Web2. I think eventually, right, you will have like these things where it's like you have a medium of both.
Yeah, I'm seeing Rockstar bring GTA to Ronin if they want to do on-chain.
That would be a crazy one. Not gonna lie. That would be insane. Except they just spent $2 billion on their game that's been delayed for years now.
Yeah. I don't know. You got any context at Rockstar, Thuban?
I think my cousin used to be the CFO of Take-Two or Rockstar. So
What the
What?
fuck, Gio?
You're just gonna casually drop that in
it was
here,
a long
like
time ago. It was a long time ago.
I'm sure he knows people probably out there.
You know what would be so like super fucking interesting? I reckon if we went through your phone book, G-Host, it would blow some people's minds. You were saying that like one time, I think this is totally off topic, but obviously, you know, I'm an Arsenal fan and yourself. And you were saying about like you have friends who are like deeply involved with the club, etc. And I mean, it blew my mind. And
That was
I
before
reckon we'll
Axie or
name
anything like that. It was just my homie is one of
Yeah.
the owners. His family is one of the owners of Arsenal. One of my college friends.
How
But,
do you feel about leaning into real world sports? Because obviously there's fantasy football, fantasy baseball, fantasy whatever sport, right? Like it exists
real
and there's a
world
lot of
assets,
products
bro.
from it.
Real world assets. So just like we have like Tether, right? It's basically like dollars on chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if we had like I think like more like digital, like physical collectibles on chain? And
Yeah.
I think like that's an interesting playground. And
That ties into the porn star desires, yeah, for sure. I think that's the we're not tokenizing those porn stars, but it's like 100% is going to be a wave. Like it's almost as if you can see it in the distance and like, okay, well, how big is it going to be? Is this tsunami level? But the tokenization of things is taking surprisingly a lot longer than I had expected when first realizing, you know, what was happening in this space. You've seen like real estate on Avalanche. I know it's only a small county up in New Jersey, but like that's like that's happened, the first of its kind. Do you see that as something that could particularly take place in Ronin? Obviously, real estate is one thing, and that's an asset class that may not align with the things that are going on here. But
I think tokenization of physical things that are closest to like gamer culture, right? I think is like the place where we would have a unique advantage.
buy out Nintendo, Kagi says. Yeah, that's that one's out of the budget. Yeah. Well, I got a few more questions that come straight from the community. This one, please, G-host, tell me to fuck off, right? If you don't want to answer this question. But I've seen it countless times. People talk about it still. And I do, you know, personally would like to diffuse the air or clear the air on the situation. I mean, it's already happened. We had a show where we spoke about it, and it's to do with business development. But essentially, it's like, why is there no communication around that? And again, if that's a question you want to say, Gila, I love you, but fuck off. Like, yeah, please do.
I mean, to me, right, it's like whenever we're dealing with employees and their status and stuff like that is always best, you know, communicated from their end. And that's always been right. That's always been like the precedent that we set. Like we don't think that it's appropriate to comment on individual situations like that, right? Like, how would you feel if your employer did that? So that's basically right. Like, I think that kind of answers, I think, the question that is being asked.
Yeah. We are actually speaking with Psycal in 2 weeks' time from now. So
Nice.
we'll unpack the whole business development conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for games that are wanting to build on Ronin, right? Like you can forward them to Ash Abu, and he's been there building.
Shout out to Abu, bro.
I got a question. I mean, we got Angry Dynamites in here, and they're popping off. You know, people are.
And that's a game that that's an open Ronin game, right? The one day they were just like, "Hey, we're coming to Ronin." We're like, "Oh fuck, nice!" Like,
right.
Yeah.
So apart from Angry Dynamites, right? You cannot say them. What is something that you are looking forward to, like you're mega bullish on as G-host?
The things that I'm most
load the funds up. Load the funds up.
Axie MMO, like basically Ronin, right? A metagame reputation type system. And individual games, you know, it's hard to say, but you know, Fableborn, Cambria, Fishing Frenzy, Angry Dynamites, you know, Lumiterra, you know, It's like a kind of a short list, right? I guess PvP and Runiverse. Those are some of the things.
So as for Axie, I think it was Postu who wrote that, starting this week, we already got a little bit of a leak, right? We're gonna be getting more leaks coming. Like how close are we, man? Tell us something. Give us some juice about the MMO. How close are we to?
Well, you guys saw, right? Like you guys saw like that he was able to play, which I was fucking astounded by.
Yo, Paz looks amazing, by the way. That Ronin gym is doing him well.
He said that it played smoothly, right? So the idea is to just continue having like internal deadlines and tests. Like, hey, like you need to show something out, and then boom, like we'll do one for you guys. You guys will play. You two specifically will get your hands on it, right? By end of summer, and who knows what the definition of summer is. Usually, in my definition of summer is right. The summer kind of ends, August 31st, or November or September, or like September 15th. Those are the two definitions. Two viable definitions of the end of summer are end of August and end of the first third of September. So yeah, you guys kind of saw, right? Like that there's something there. It's playable. It's gone from like vision to something relatively concrete pretty quickly, I would say. So.
Yeah. Now that's an interesting one. I'm gonna constantly vocalize around the feedback of that, and just how important it's going to be to understand this is like a beta product.
I would say it should be with, I predict August though.
Okay. Well, my birthday is September 3rd, so if that's ready by then, what a birthday present.
What percentage of the game do you think will be ready by then? Like that we'll be able to play. So it's not. I know it's not going to be 100% because it's still a work in progress. But what would you say, like, for us as because everyone's got.
I think like you'll be able to you'll be able to try it out and get a sense, right, for what it feels like to play the game, I think.
Okay. And I think I also read that it was going to be mobile first.
Yeah. Yo, Geos is getting hollered right now. He's a man in demand. Someone needs to get on his line.
I read somewhere like it's going to be a mobile first game. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be mobile, right? Like, because of it's like otherwise it's not going to be playable by many people. So it needs to be right, like basically mobile. That was the big thing that we learned about Homeland is right. It's like mobile needs to be conscientiously planned for from the start rather than right thrown in as an afterthought much later.
Okay.
Bullish. I'm glad about that actually, because that's like that opens up the funnel for Axie fans broadly to be able to jump in right out the gate. So, Geos, I don't want to keep you here for much longer. We have a whole hour to talk here, and we've had some interesting conversation at this point. I kind of want to just open the floor at this stage of the show to just do what you do really well, and sometimes that is the inspirational aspects. Communicate what it is that you want to get across to the community today here on the Ronin Radio.
Let them cook.
Yeah, the pauses, the Jihos pauses they're actually so important. I'm the type of person that doesn't think before I talk, so to watch it happen in front of me is always quite fascinating.
It's a breath of fresh air, to be honest.
Jihos, you're muted though, by the way. BT dubs.
It's a trained skill. I think maybe I've taken it a bit too far, but it's something that I've developed over the years. I would say that I see the community interested in understanding what Sky Mavis's perspective is on the future of Ronin and everything that we're building. I do believe that we all have a shared responsibility for the success and future of the project. I do think that a lot of the innovation right now still needs to maybe come from Sky Mavis. So Sky Mavis is going to focus on innovating and pushing the envelope. We're going to be rolling out some experiments, like think the that kind of gacha mechanic, right? We're going to be rolling that out. We're going to be rolling out improvements to the wallet. We're going to be rolling out something like a profile, right, which sets us up for the user and the builder reputation. And we're going to be experimenting a lot with game economies, right? Learning about what can we learn from Cambria, right? Cambria has something going on with the risk to earn. How do we apply that? Take those principles, take what we know from like things like EVE Online, from RuneScape, and from a lot of these longstanding digital economies, and how do we use that to basically build the next generation? And I do think that right now people are still okay. Ronin is open, or we're seeing some new things. We're also seeing some deficiencies. What's next? How do we get to the next level? And we'll put out some thoughts on that. Right now, we are kind of in our research and development mode, planning mode, figuring out what the details of the next big push from our end, while we continue to onboard games, have the community and the simmer and push stuff out themselves as well.
Absolutely. Hi. Well, Geos, appreciate you for coming through every single time. We'll be back next month. We'll do another fresh update on where we're at. Really looking forward to the things that are ahead.
I want to come every month. I also want you guys to have Trung on as well. Trung and I will be spending more time person to person as well. That's generally one of the ideas, is more kind of in-person stuff for Sky Mavis. And it's hard times. It's hard times out in the world. There's freaking war. People are trying to attack and kill each other. And so, I'm sending strength and love and the stalwart mindset. Is there any other questions from chat that they're like, holy fuck, Jiho avoided what I wanted to say or wanted to ask? Is there anything from chat specifically that they want me to answer?
Now's your time. Call upon.
Trevor asked, when card packs on Ronin, like Court?
Dude, I'm literally gonna be giving out. I'm gonna be giving out thousands of dollars of Pokemon cards for some reason from my account. So when I start doing that, don't be like, what the fuck? Geo's literally turned into a fucking card shop chiller. What the fuck is going on? Yo, you heard it here first. I'm gonna start giving away thousands of dollars of Pokemon
Bro, I want
cards
that
from my account. Basically starting in the next couple of weeks.
I'm in.
Fake interview controlled questions. Axie blind boxes. Yeah, I mean the blind box model, right? It's it shows that we're playing in the right space. I mean, the thing that I showed, Jin's fortune flick or whatever, that's kind of like an Axie blind box, right? There's gonna be Axies in there, and some of them are gonna be rare and others.
Nice. Aggie, fuck you. Love you, bro, but fuck you.
Jihos is coming back, by the way. We're working on him. I think I have a meeting tomorrow to see what the final progress. Oh,
he's been in the lab, bro. He's been in the lab.
Jihos been in the lab. He's been silently going up too, and kind of cooking. So
we're gonna see a giant green candle any moment now.
How do we get? I like this thing. How do we get people outside of our ecosystem to talk about Ronin? I mean, I think it's right. One, having the right new interesting killer app. We had a lot of people outside of Ronin talk about Ronin when the Axie MMO was revealed, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had a huge spike in mindshare for Axie for all of Ronin when that was revealed. So I think basically having the right experience as a new thing to onboard them into, and I think makes a lot of sense. I also saw Daryl and the Awakening Hunters, right? They're basically doing a thing where I think a lot of the whitelist strategy for the current Ronin projects is not necessarily optimized. They're just giving whitelist to the people already on the chain. They're gonna buy already, motherfuckers. What you need to do is give whitelist to people outside of the chain first, right? And if I have some real easy way to, because people will onboard to Ronin for a whitelist. But so I actually think that the whitelists are being a little bit mismanaged, or not super optimized.
I like that.
The teams are actually just trying to make money rather than grow.
Makes
so
sense.
be really wary of them, right? And I participate only a very small number of the launch pads.
Guerrilla marketing return. We need it. It comes from you guys. What else is on here?
We
Any
have a
more
new
questions?
team member. We have a new team member as well. I was just working on his onboarding. New team member, new beginnings. Like, yeah, Sky Mavis is cooking. Like, we're not resting.
What position?
I also like, I'm like, you know, I'm always pushing, right? Like, can we expedite the plan for the buybacks, right? I'm always like speaking for you guys as well, right? Trying to expedite that. There are like some things, right, that we need to make sure that so that we can do it legally and without like putting everyone at risk and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Will we get an answer on that? What position, who, those types of things, or no?
So Shedra is also. Are you bearish on Realms? You've
That's
mentioned a lot of games, dude. I gave them. You know, I said you guys can have Jihos in there. So yeah. We need a new hype video. We'll have some like new. We're gonna do some new like experimental stuff for sure. So
we were asking about your new hire. Like who, what position or anything can tell us on that?
We'll see. We'll see. You guys might know him. You guys might know them. You guys may know them already. So you know, we'll let them. You know, we'll let them do the reveal. You know, Sky Mavis continues to basically, right? We continue to hire. You know, we're here for the long term. We're gonna be building. I know it's like fucking hard, dude. It's like it's hard for me too, right? Like all these people, right? Like have a lot of like look to us for guidance for many different things, right? It's a lot of expectations and it's a difficult environment to operate in, but you know, you have to also appreciate that if you're gonna be in this space for a long time. So I would say it's like, you know, one of the top 5 difficult environments that we've seen, but I would always say that, you know, before we ever blew up once was probably the hardest because you're wondering if it's ever going to happen. Now it's about doing it again, right? That's a lot easier than doing it for the first time when it might never happen. So.
Yeah. But that's the conversation that's going to be set from today's show. Who is it, bro? Like, we can do some timeline work, right? We see ask at Ronin and just ask who is it over and over and over, and then they're gonna have to drop. You know, they're gonna have to drop at some point and tell us exactly who it is. So, but no, good to hear for sure. And yeah, formidable in terms of Sky Mavis, runway, those types of things, and growth. You know, happening now, bringing more hires in. It's good to hear. People are questioning whether, you know, is this for Axie? Is this for SM at large?
It would be broader Sky Mavis umbrella.
Okay, nice. Last few questions. What about onboarding non-Web3 and getting products for Web2 on chain? We have such a unique community and access to
We'll see something. We'll see something like that. You know.
Yeah.
We'll see some like sort of. We have something in the works in terms of like bringing something totally fucking new and different that you guys haven't anticipated. So, well, it's an experiment, right? I don't know if it's gonna work, but we're gonna try it.
Fuck it, bro. We need fuck it at this point.
So basically, that's the mentality, guys. Like we're going back to startup mode, like, you know, questioning and everything, and trying to figure out like what's gonna get us to the next level. So yeah, embrace uncertainty, embrace chaos. We need to go like super. You know, we need to go back into the innovation lab, and cook up the next. You know, cook up the next mechanic or something related to tokens, right? Something related to risk to earn, something related to some sort of a loop that's going to be able to get in the next generation of users.
Nice. One question I did see early on in today's show that I didn't call out because we were mid-convo, and it actually is like, I don't know how much you can reveal on this, but like how realistically close are we to the app tokens that we've spoken about previously? The development of that.
Yeah, a lot. I think the app tokens are, you know, they're definitely coming. Attic was like, oh, like if you have the reputation system and you're giving out RON, like you have to make sure that the ROI is more than 1 RON on whatever. It's not necessarily true if you have app tokens. That's the good thing about app tokens is basically, right, like you can right give out $1 and make 50 cents, but if you make it so that $1 that you're giving out unlocks over a period of time, then the ROI is different, right? And then you also have more utility for the reputation score because, right, the higher your reputation, right, maybe perhaps the faster the unlock is, right?
Nice. Hey, dude, that's alpha. Right, so
that's basically that's basically how I'm thinking about it, right? How can you increase rewards without increasing sell pressure. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's the way that you increase that's the way that you get app tokens. And then how do you give like reputation utility is like, okay, right, like that's part of the accelerated unlock of the app tokens and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, that's how it works, right? For that's how it works for everyone working. Is right. You get tokens over a period of time. You don't just get like a fucking
Throwing at you.
ton of tokens.
Oh, same with like dividends as well, like shares and stuff, right? So, yep. I mean, even if you look at the gaming industry, right? Like they look at it that way: user acquisition. How much do we spend? Do we spend $1 to get a gamer, and they spend $1.20? That's our margin. That's like what we look at. But like, there's a different. It's actually a different industry mechanism here, which could actually have the traditional gaming industry looking, because we actually understand that the gaming industry is like plateaued in some sense. Like, they understand user acquisition to a really detailed extent, how much they have to spend to get what back in. And then always there's a point within a game where, you'll have a fall off of a user base. It's never going to continue exponentially growing, etc. So, yep, maybe we unlock something that does fill or bridge that moat we spoke about previously in today's Ronin Radio, bro. But no, thank you so much for being here, Gios. I appreciate you. Let you get back to the hustle, to the grind. I'm hearing talks about Waymo and stuff in the chat, but you guys are giving away the alpha. But yeah, man, thank you for coming through today. Always appreciate you for the support that you give us, and yeah, that was always a good conversation.
All right, thanks for having me, boys.
Much love. There it is, yo, ladies and gentlemen. It is every week. It's the Ronin Radio, but not every week is G-Host in the building. So I hope you guys got some value from today's show. If you asked your question, they were answered. You're fucking welcome, mate. But no, I think there's a lot that we can do, as a community. So understand that, realize that, and let's see what happens. If you guys check in the chat right now, you'll see something really, really important. The first person to identify